on the Bidwell House Trail next week. So
Awesome.
nice job.
Awesome. It's been a hot spell for trail work. That's for sure.
It was. Yeah, they muscled through or sweated through, but it was along the brook, so they enjoyed that. So
that's good. That's really good.
You guys didn't tell me I'm sitting here without my jacket on. It's supposed to be like, I don't know. There, that's better.
Yeah. Mariah, Tyler must be tired after his day in and day out work these days.
Can figure out how to unmute. Yes. I think he hasn't felt like such a stream of sweat in a long time, just consistently, but yeah. I feel for anyone who's working outside, all day, every day these days.
Yeah. A slight reprieve today.
Yeah.
Skylar, nice to see you. I'm glad to see you. I know that you've been working with the team in Judith on a project. So glad that you could join us today.
Thank you. I'm glad I can be here.
Dan, I'm working from my wife's phone again, so I'm not sure this is working. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Yep. Looking good, Gary.
Thank you. I have a new updated computer, but there's just no audio part of it to be able to do this from my computer screen.
Yeah. For
the audio part.
Well, let's see. Still got a few people joining us.
Dan, you let me know when the waiting room is empty and you want to get going, and I can.
Yep. Yeah, we've got 12:02. I guess we should probably get the show on the road. Anyway, thanks again for joining us today. It's outside of our usual board meeting time and included meeting to the general public to take a glimpse at what we are doing as a national heritage area. And I'm glad to see that you're all able to join. This meeting is recorded. It is in compliance with our enabling legislation, Public Law 109-338. And we do this twice annually. So thanks again. We hope to give you just a very brief overview of programming activities, a quick glimpse of our profit and loss, and then we'll hear from some of our program people on specific programs, and hope that that gives you a sense for the diversity of this organization and the types of work that we do. So I'd like to mention also that if you do have a question, type it into the chat box. We will, address them as we're able. And if a follow-up is required by email, we can manage that as well. And as we do with many of our public gatherings, we read a land acknowledgement the Upper Housatonic Valley National Heritage Area had adopted previously. And I'll read that now. It is with gratitude and humility that we acknowledge that we are learning, speaking, and gathering on the ancestral homelands of the Mohican people, who are the indigenous peoples of this land. Despite tremendous hardship in being forced from here, today their community resides in Wisconsin and is known as the Stockbridge-Muncie community. We pay honor and respect to their ancestors, past and present, and we commit to building a more inclusive and equitable space for all. Housatonic Heritage advocates for informed research and respectful interpretation of the indigenous people that have historically inhabited the lands of the Upper Housatonic River region. We urge others to join us in learning about these important histories, to understand the culture and lifeways of the Mohican Indians, and to respect both their true history and their contemporary lives. So thank you. And We have an agenda that has a few small changes, but let me share that with you now. Thank you, Mariah. Mariah, thanks again. One of our board members with Berkshire Natural Resources Council. Mariah is our technical and spiritual advisor. Thanks for controlling. So the agenda is fairly complete. We made a small change at the tail end. As I had missed one of the videos we had originally played at our April public meeting. So I made a small change there, but otherwise there's the agenda. And I will turn it over briefly to our chair, Will Conklin, who is also the executive director of Greenagers, an important partner of Housatonic Heritage. So Will, Chairman Will.
Thanks, Dan. And yes, welcome to the board and to the community members. Thank you for taking the time to learn about Housatonic Heritage. I think the Housatonic Heritage is one of the most impactful and least sort of flying under the radar organization in Berkshire County. And though it does fly under the radar in a lot of cases, it really has great catalyzing impact on a lot of projects, and that's really due to Dan's work. And for those of you unfamiliar with the length and breadth of the organization and the programming runs from Pittsfield, Mass, all the way down to Kent, Connecticut. Was started around the iron ore industry throughout the Housatonic Valley, and then the both focuses and initiatives have grown from there to encompass everything from Indigenous interpretation to oral history, to youth getting on trails, to the written and spoken word festivals, to natural resource and agricultural celebration and enhancement. It's really a broad brush, but it really reflects the cultural depth and diversity of the area, and we continue to look particularly at increasing the diversity of that, which is hugely important. So I think I can just leave it with that and say that if you are new or relatively new to jumping in on these meetings, explore a little more into the website, or pick Dan's brain about the all the programs that he touches. And if you really want to get into it, ask him for his executive director's report that is quite detailed and informative. So with that, I'll hand it back to Dan. I think we've got a little bit of business to go over before we get into the updates.
Great. Thank you so much, Will. And let me quickly acknowledge the Housatonic Heritage Board of Trustees. Again, a very diverse board, and so supportive of what we do as an organization. I'm infinitely grateful for the ongoing support. The aforementioned Mariah of Berkshire Natural Resources Council, Catherine Boughton, North Canaan Town Historian, Will Conklin, our chair and executive director of Greenagers, Allison Dixon, Berkshire County rep for Housatonic Valley Association, Leslie Hertzberg, executive director at Berkshire County Historical, Rob Hoogs, Bidwell House Museum president, Paul Ivory, emeritus board member, Great Barrington Historical Commission, Gary Levier, Great Barrington Historical Society, Paul O'Brien, president of Sheffield Historical Society, Marge Smith, curator for Kent Historical Society, Craig Langlois from Berkshire Museum, and Jane Wynn, executive director of Berkshire Environmental Action Team. So, we've got representation from a lot of the geographic parts of the National Heritage Area, as well as diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise. So we have benefit of a great board. And like I said, I'm just eternally grateful for the support you give me and the flexibility to manage these programs. Let me give you a quick financial overview. Here's a profit and loss statement for the year to date. We are on the federal fiscal year that ends September 30. A couple of things to point out to you. We are having a pretty robust year so far, year to date, as of July 31, contributed support in excess of $444,000. You know, a good chunk of that is appropriated by U.S. Congress, and we remain grateful for you know, our congressional delegation's support of this program as well. You know, without them, we wouldn't have the reach that we do. Another important item here is year to date in this fiscal year, we've given out already, and you know, the year is not quite over yet, in excess of $147,000 in grants to other local organizations. You know, and these grants, while they do require a one-to-one match, our interpretation of match is very liberal, and it includes volunteer time, donated services, products, etc. So we hope that our grants, though none of them are terribly large, we hope that they're impactful for the organizations that we work with. Yeah, so year to date, we're doing nicely. We're on track, we're on budget, and currently roughly $23,000 ahead of last year. So if you have any questions, again, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll address them as we're able. I'll give you next a quick list of the diversity of programs and initiatives that we are directly involved in. Notwithstanding, it's not a complete list. These are probably the most active items that we are involved in. But we also act as fiscal sponsor for a number of additional programs that don't show up on this list that are equally important to serving the communities here in the Upper Housatonic Valley. But these are the, you know, the core programs that we directly manage. And as Will mentioned at the outset, the Regional Iron Heritage Trail, which was the impetus for creating the National Heritage Area at the outset, with the recognition from local historians that the story of iron in this region couldn't be told with any one locality, county, or state, that a broader, you know, a broader net needed to be cast in order to capture the complete story of iron, the early iron industry. And they saw the National Heritage Area program, one such tool to be able to do interpretation for all of these other types of programs that we've since engaged in, many of which would really suffer from the ability of this organization to easily cross county, state lines, and to have the support of Congress for federal funding. The African American Heritage Trail continues to develop. There are events coming up later this August in Great Barrington. Native American Heritage Trail, we work closely with the Stockbridge-Muncie community, who is very active now in interpretation and uncovering the histories of their ancestral homelands. And we're pleased and proud to have them as a partner. Most recently, we've worked with the Stockbridge-Muncie community to initiate an educational program. And while that program is still in the planning stages, we're hoping that we will be able to bring Native Indigenous peoples curricula to every school district in Berkshire County that we serve. And we've already done a lot of outreach and have gotten a very enthusiastic response to that idea, including from the Language and Culture Committee of the Stockbridge-Muncie community. So we're pushing forward with that. I hope to be able to give you more information as that unfolds. So the Du Bois National Historic Site Program is our effort to tie together all the relevant sites of Du Bois' legacy. As you know, he is widely regarded as the architect of the modern civil rights movement, and was a gifted writer, orator, well-educated, and clearly saw the future of social justice. And Great Barrington is proud to call him a native son, and we're doing our best to assist with that broad interpretation about all things Du Bois. The Heritage Trails and Greenways program is
Yeah, I'm down here, Mark.
Oh. Yeah, I'll go ahead and mute. Where was I? Heritage Trails and Greenways program is mostly connected with working with other trail organizations and working on trail connectivity. It also oversees the Western New England Greenway, which is a multi-state bikeway that extends from Norwalk, Connecticut to the Canadian border. Operation Pollination, which is a National Park Service. It's a national program that Vivian will tell you more about shortly. Annual Heritage Walks weekends, which are beginning on Labor Day, and there again are 80+ free guided adventures to all things heritage in Berkshire and Litchfield County. So those brochures are out in distribution. I'll remark more about that later. And the local Heritage Learning Lab, that is our Teach the Teachers program that we run in Connecticut Regional District 1 schools here in Connecticut. One thing, oh, I skipped over it, the Housatonic Heritage's Oral History Center. Judith Monakina directs that program, and that is housed on the campus of Berkshire Community College and is one of our core programs. So there are more. Please visit HousatonicheRitage.org for details about these and everything else that we do. I'm going to give you a quick view now. This is one of our Trails and Greenways programs that has been developing over the past 10 or 12 years or so, and it was born out of an idea to create local biking routes that were safe for families and children and utilized side roads, low speed, low volume, public roadways, avoided major highways, and presented a pleasant bicycling experience. We sought to connect cycling with heritage sites around the region and quickly realized that not only were these popular with locals, but that you could then thread all of these local trails together to create a long distance cycling trail. We've named this one the Western New England Greenway. And as a result of reaching out to other cycling organizations, both to the north and south of the Housatonic Heritage region, we were able to piece together a contiguous bike route that connects with the East Coast Greenway in Norwalk, Connecticut, and connects with Route Verte at the Canadian border. It's important to note that both of these connected trails, the East Coast Greenway, is a national route from Maine to Key West, Florida, and Route Verte might easily be one of the most developed biking networks in North America. And we've provided that important multi-state connector between those two. So as I said, it's a program that is robust and requires a lot of heavy lift because of the size of it and the number of partners. We engaged in strategic planning late last year and are at this point working on a signage program. But as you can imagine, again, hundreds of miles of public route signed for a bikeway is a heavy lift. And so we've begun here in Litchfield County. Quick note, the Western New England Greenway, we lobbied on in partnership with the Departments of Transportation of Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Vermont to have this designated as a national route, and subsequently in partnership with the DOTs and all the communities through which it runs, it was designated as US Bicycle Route 7 in 2017. So this garnered a lot of national attention for this cycling route, and consequently it spurred us to action to finally get the signs in the ground, develop a strategic plan, and hopefully over this coming winter, a marketing plan that will encourage more use of the Western New England Greenway. So please check out our website that's devoted specifically to this program. It is the Western New England Greenway, and the website is wnegreenway.org. But you can link from our website as well, the main website at Housatonic Heritage. If you go there, it'll link out to this sub website. Great program, very robust, and we're looking for a lot of good things in the future. A lot of great partners on that. Next, I'd like to introduce Eugenie Sills, who's the interim executive director of the, you may know it as the Clinton Church Restoration, but recently it's undergone a transformation and renamed as the Du Bois Freedom Center. But I will turn it over to Eugenie at this time. Thank you, Eugenie.
Thank you, Dan. I need screen sharing privileges, I think.
Oh, yes.
Um,
You are.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'll share some slides as I talk. Paused. Let's try that again. Okay. So a lot has happened since I was here talking with you or some of you a few months ago, and really excited to give you an update. We are an organization that is engaged in a phased program to restore the historic Clinton AME Zion Church in Great Barrington, the first Black church in Great Barrington. And we are planning to use it for adaptive reuse as an African-American cultural heritage site. And the big news is that we named the center and announced this name in June. This photo is from, get that out of the way, from that event. The W.E.B. Du Bois Center for Freedom and Democracy is the name of the organization and the center. It will be known as the Du Bois Freedom Center. That's how we are branding it, as you can see, but that is our legal name now as well. And you can see on the left there, Ray Gunn, our board chair, who was a member of the Clinton Church for more than 70 years, and is also the fifth generation descendant of Agrippa Hull, a freeborn Black who served in the Revolutionary War and was a significant landowner in Stockbridge. Our mission has not changed, although it's been somewhat expanded and a little bit updated. We will still tell the stories, not only of the life and legacy of W.E.B. Du Bois, who, as Dan said, is a prominent civil rights leader, scholar, and activist, but the Berkshire's rich African-American history, and that includes the history of this historic church, which for 150 years was the center of African-American life in the region. This will be the first museum and living memorial to Du Bois in North America, dedicated to Du Bois's life and legacy in North America. We will still offer museum experience during the day. This is the former sanctuary will be turned into a space that offers exhibits and film and that tells these various stories. In the evening, those kiosks you see in the center, just as a conceptual rendering here, will be able to be rolled away, and we will be able to set up that space as a flexible performance space. It will more likely be chairs than benches, but we will be able to hold concerts here, show films, offer lectures, and other programming for the community. We will also have a StoryCorps style oral history recording booth, and in the basement we will have a fellowship hall with a small kitchen, so that will serve as a community meeting space. We will be giving guided tours from the visitor center, which will be available for people to just walk in, stop in, and will act as a hub for the sites on the upper Housatonic African American Heritage Trail. People can get a map, they can go on a tour, learn about local African American history. So the center will continue to be a community resource for local residents, for school student groups, and a destination for tourists. We have expanded our plans for a writer in residence, which was our original idea, to something more significant. This will be called, or is called, the Du Bois Forum. It's a partnership that we've developed with Dr. David Levering Lewis, who is the Pulitzer Prize winning Du Bois biographer, and the African American Trail Project at Tufts University. This will be essentially a retreat center, not necessarily, I mean, we won't be offering a physical retreat space, certainly not at any time in the near future, but we will offer a retreat and events for writers, scholars, and artists of color. The inaugural retreat was held in July. You can see some photos from that here. There were about 15 or 20 scholars here from Harvard, Princeton, Johns Hopkins, UMass, many other schools. It was a really remarkable group. It was all scholars. They spent some time at Kripalu, and they went on tours. You can see us in the center on the bottom, a visit to the Du Bois home site in Great Barrington. They were invited to visit with Governor Patrick at his home, which was really lovely. The event, or the retreat, culminated in a public program that is part of the retreat, which we did in partnership with Jacob's Pillow. This was a pillow talk called W.E.B. Du Bois and the Black Berkshires, and it was held in July. We had an overflow crowd, people inside and out on the deck, and it was really a wonderful gathering and a wonderful inaugural event. We do have some other upcoming events, even though our center will not be, the building will not be open for several years because it's under restoration. We have been offering programming from the beginning when we were founded in 2016 as Clinton Church Restoration. We have an upcoming talk at Dewey Hall in Sheffield on Elizabeth Freeman and the telling of Black stories. So it'll be a bit about the ethics of Black public history. And this will be the kickoff event for a weekend of events celebrating Elizabeth Freeman's life and legacy and journey to freedom. We have we're part of a wonderful collaborative event being hosted at the W.E.B. Du Bois River Garden Park at River and Church Streets in Great Barrington. You can read more about this and all of these on our website. We're doing that in partnership with the Great Barrington Riverwalk, which is part of the Land Conservancy, the NAACP, and numerous other organizations. I will say we did a similar event there, an earlier iteration of this in 2018, and it was a very moving event, and I strongly encourage you to come. It's free, as all of these are. The bottom event is a benefit concert exploring the Black Roots music with Jake Blount. You can, again, find more information on our website. Whoops. And I would also encourage you to come to a tour if you like. There will be tours, 2 more guided tours that are scheduled, walking tours of downtown African American and Du Bois related heritage sites on August 20th and October 9th at 10:30, meeting at the Clinton Church. We do ask for an RSVP, so check our website if you're interested in that. There are currently guided tours being offered at the Du Bois Boyhood Home site. Whoops, missing a word there. They are offered by UMass Amherst and Housatonic Heritage. It will continue on Sundays at 11, 1, and 2 p.m. Through September 4th. And we are working on a self-guided walking tour, which will be launching soon. This will be available on the Great Barrington Tours app. It's a town app. There's a historical tour there currently, and we will be adding an African American Heritage and Du Bois related tour to it. So I will encourage you to learn more about the project if you would like to know more at DuBoisFreedomCenter.org, or take a look at what we're doing, our upcoming programs, and I do hope that we'll see you sometime soon. Thanks.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Eugenie. And many of you are aware when this project was getting started, Housatonic Heritage was very pleased to be the fiscal sponsor to give this project legs in its early days, and we're pleased to remain as a stout partner and to continue to administer several federal grants because of our skill and expertise, if you can call it that, in the administration of those grants. But we're very pleased to continue to be a partner of the newly rebranded, renamed Du Bois Freedom Center. So thank you, Eugenie, for the update.
Thank you, Dan.
Let's see. I'll introduce Judith Monachina, Director of the Housatonic Heritage Oral History Center at Berkshire Community College, one of our fine programs. Thank you, Judith, for joining and being able to do this.
I'm really happy to be here, and thank you. I'm going to start in the middle of the screen here. I'm not going to talk about all these projects that are active right now, but I'm going to start with the thing that I'm excited about. Most excited about this moment is our archive summer. We have a person, she's on this call, she's here, Skylar, who is an intern, a recent Simmons Archives Management. I'm not sure I got the whole title of that degree, but an MA graduate. And Skylar is bringing our archival materials up to better standards. She's a real archivist, and so we have our Papertown Heritage records have been moved into the Housatonic Heritage Systems, and Skylar created a beautiful inventory spreadsheet, if a spreadsheet can be beautiful, and it includes all of the important information about these records, and will be very useful as we go forward with what we do with those records, including perhaps an exhibit at the Berkshire Museum. Also, Skylar is working on the Essential Workers Oral History Project, bringing that up to date, into shape, really, so that we can submit it and feel really good about what we're submitting to the UMass archive. That Essential Workers Project was recently, I was asked by a professor from North Carolina if he could use our project in his sociology class. So that's really nice. He found it online. Also part of the archive summer, but extending beyond that, is the Four-Town Oral History Project, which you've heard about for a while. We have another wonderful intern there. Cherise is working with Sharon and Kent on digitizing, making digital copies of all of their legacy oral histories. And there was already an inventory done, and then we'll move to Salisbury, which is already digital, and do lots of metadata forms. The intern will do. So that's sort of the archive stuff. I mean, there's always more, but I'm really pleased about getting this stuff into shape. And thank our two interns. So BCC, another kind of fun, exciting project. It started very slowly last fall, and it continued into the spring, and we'll do it more in this fall, is Elders in the Pandemic Oral History Project, done through the Service Learning Program in sociology, with sociology students. Students interviewing elders about their early days of the pandemic and how they made it through. And at first I thought this was a nice project and everything, but now that I've listened to the interviews, I realize it's also an important kind of historical record, important project, important community building between students and elders. But now the next step is to get permission from the Institutional Review Board to make those archives public. And that's what I'm working on right now. West Side Legends, I'm just mentioning them. Dan and I worked with the West Side Legends over the spring and into the summer on organizing a story circle, which was going to be a real story circle in place in Pittsfield, about living on the west side of Pittsfield during the time of urban renewal. Instead it became a Zoom thing, and it was a story circle, and they ran it, and it was really beautiful. They did a gorgeous job of running this story circle. And last year, Sheffield Historical Society did a story circle with the Home Front World War II and the Home Front in Sheffield, and they asked me to be part of it. And so those two story circle experiences have made me realize that this is part of our future, that we can help organizations that really don't have the wherewithal to do intensive oral history projects, do storytelling, collect stories and all that in a way that is also community building. CTSB is helping us. Wendy Germain is here. She recorded and with Erica Spiz our first television show called Telling Our Stories, where Paul O'Brien was interviewed. It's now posted on their site, and it's been broadcast. But we will also post when we start to get a little collection. We'll post those shows on our site as well. The next person is Dan Vo from Simon's Rock, who's a digital storytelling professor who's worked with Dan in the past. And excited to have it. It will be more storytelling, not just oral history, but all different kinds of ways of storytelling. That will be that is the show. Connecticut Oral History Collaborative has asked us to represent our part of Connecticut in a statewide effort to coordinate what's going on with oral history in the state of Connecticut, and so that's a real honor. I'm really pleased to be that representing our towns in the in that collaborative. I just want to show you quickly before I finish. Yeah, so I need to share my screen, right? I wonder if how we do that. Okay, so let's see. Where's my, okay, there it is. Do you see a map?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a map of basically our projects that over the past couple of years that are ongoing. Some of them are paused, some of them are tiny, some of them are big. You can see Pittsfield is really well represented. A lot of that is Berkshire Community College. It's also the West Side Legends, and it's also the NAACP, and we sort of trickle down into the middle, down into Berkshire, other parts of Berkshire County. I also want to mention that, you know, we have UMass on here because they've supplied interns, and that is our archive. The Mass History Alliance have been involved with them, and outside of our region also is the Jewish Voices of Boston. They asked me to be a humanities advisor, and it was a really beneficial experience on all sides. It was a very well-run program. In Connecticut, I see, you know, I can see that we need to do a little bit more down here. I think we've been working with Northwest Connecticut Community College. I misnamed them here so they wouldn't put an official little tab. And we've been working with them. They're slightly outside of our region, and the 4 towns. And then, you know, ongoing thing is Housatonic Valley Regional High School oral history festivals and podcasts. That's paused right now, but I think I can see that maybe a little bit more down in the Connecticut area. And so the map is very helpful to get that kind of visual, you know. And I think that's basically it. There's lots more, but I think that's it. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Judith. Yeah, amazing diversity of programs, all under the, you know, under the banner of the Oral History Center. And yeah, I couldn't be more pleased that we serve the diversity and geographic area that we're able to with this program under your directorship. So thanks so much. Next on the agenda, Operation Pollination, and I'm going to turn it right over to Vivian Orlowski, our Operation Pollination Program Coordinator. Thanks, Vivian.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate this opportunity to provide an update on activities since our last meeting in April. Next slide, please. I also appreciate your help in advancing slides. Housatonic Heritage's Operation Pollination program is part of an international initiative to facilitate collaboration between national heritage areas and Rotary districts and clubs. The aim is to engage organizational partners in pollinator habitat restoration and educational activities. Next slide, please. In our region, Operation Pollination was inspired by Housatonic Heritage's Native American Heritage Trail. We asked the following question: as we face contemporary crises, ranging from climate disruption to pollinator extinction, what can we learn from the experience of Indigenous people who lived and thrived here for thousands of years? Next slide, please. Following this perspective, Housatonic Heritage partnered with OLLI at BCC to develop a course titled Honoring Our Indigenous Heritage, Native People, Plants, Pollinators, 47 people enrolled in this course. It was one of many events offered by OLLI's University Days program, which is entitled, "We Are Still Here, Northeastern Indigenous Peoples." And it ranged from courses starting in the winter through the summer when my course took place, and a full program that will go on in August and throughout September. And the full program is online at berkshireolli.org /University Days 2022. Next slide, please. In appreciation and recognition of the Indigenous people who stewarded Northeast lands for thousands of years, and especially the Mohican and Munsee nations who lived in this area, we started each class with Housatonic Heritage's land acknowledgement, as Dan articulated at the start of this meeting. Next slide, please. Our first class presentation on June 3rd was by Professor Margaret Bruchac. Dr. Bruchac serves as Associate Professor of Anthropology and Coordinator of Native American and Indigenous Studies at the University of Pennsylvania. She's of Abenaki descent and discussed her research on 19th century Indigenous healers, including her previous living history performances a number of decades ago as an Indian doctress who served both the native communities and many of the settlers. And she did this historic representation at Old Sturbridge Village as seen in this photo. Next slide, please. Dr. Bruchac's presentation provided historical and botanical insights. One example was Joe Pye weed, named after a Mohican healer. The plant blooms in late summer and fall, about the time that typhoid fevers were more prevalent, and it was shown by native healers to relieve those illness symptoms. Next slide, please. Wild edibles expert Russ Cohen presented at the June 10th class. Russ has degrees in land use planning, natural resources, and law, and worked professionally as river advocate in the Division of Ecological Restoration of the Massachusetts Department of Fish and Game. But wild edibles are Russ's avocation, and he's been leading wild edible talks and walks for more than 45 years. His presentation connected edible plants with their uses as food and medicine by Indigenous people in this region. Next slide, please. On Thursday, September 15th at 3 p.m., Russ will lead a wild edibles walk on the grounds of Bidwell House Museum in Monterey. For more info and free registration, please see berkshireolli.org /University Days 2022 for the full program and free registration. Next slide, please. Misty Cook grew up on the Stockbridge-Munsee Community Reservation in Wisconsin and served as their Director of Education and Cultural Affairs. Misty was certified as a tribal medicine woman due to her tracing oral history, field work, and experience with traditional native medicinal plants as documented in her book, Medicine Generations. Next slide, please. On June 17th, Misty Cook presented to the class. She paid homage to her ancestors and to community elders who mentored her as she learned about traditional Mohican plant medicines. Next slide, please. On June 18th and 19th, Misty presented a medicine walk as part of the Mohican Miles Workshop series at the Mission House in Stockbridge. The date was set after the course was planned, so it wasn't officially part of the course, but many of us were so glad to attend Misty's presentation in person and benefit from her teachings in the garden of the Mission House. Next slide, please. To celebrate National Pollinator Week, Housatonic Heritage and OLLI partnered with the Massachusetts Pollinator Network to offer the final class in the course free of charge to all those who registered with the Massachusetts Pollinator Network. 82 people registered for the June 24th class, in addition to the 47 who had enrolled in the, in the whole course. And we gave an online presentation also to the network's May 31st monthly meeting, all about Housatonic heritage and its Operation Pollination program. And subsequently were invited to join the Massachusetts Pollinator Network Steering Committee. Next slide, please. Evan Abramson, founder and principal of Landscape Interactions, was the guest presenter at the June 24th class. He co-authored the Great Barrington Pollinator Action Plan in this region and authored plans for towns of Lincoln and also Egremont. Since 2019, Evan has designed more than 300 acres of pollinator habitat in the Northeast. Next slide, please. In the fall of 2020, in Egremont, Evan designed and led a community team, including greenagers, in installing the Egremont Pollinator Pathway at French Park. Here's a few snapshots of their efforts. Next slide, please. On Saturday, September 10th, at 10 a.m., Evan will lead a guided walk on native plant pollinator interactions at the Pollinator Pathway in French Park. For more information and free registration, berkshireolli.org/University Days 2022. Next slide, please. Course evaluations for honoring our Indigenous heritage, native people, plants, and pollinators were very positive. More than 95% of respondents either strongly agreed or agreed, quote, "I would recommend this course to others." Some requested more courses about pollinators in particular, and we hope to develop that next year in cooperation with OLLI. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, Operation Pollination attained international reach in 2021 when Rotary clubs in England, Scotland, Wales, India, and Mexico, along with the US, signed Operation Pollination resolutions. Next slide, please. In Southern New England, Rotary districts partnered with the Essex National Heritage Area, Freedom Way National Heritage Area, and the Upper Housatonic Valley National Heritage Area to sign pollinator resolutions. On the left is the press release from the Essex National Heritage Area, and on the right is the actual resolution that was signed by Rotary President Randy Chappelle with Dan Bolignani. Next slide, please. In Southern New England, Rotary districts partnered with Essex National Heritage Area. Oh, I already discussed that, sorry. As you can see on the map, Rotary District 7890 covers many areas in Western Massachusetts and Northwestern Connecticut, some of which overlap with Housatonic Heritage's region. On July 15th at Egremont's Pollinator Pathway, Rotary District Governor Randy Chappelle signed our Pollinator Resolution with Housatonic Heritage Executive Director Dan Bolignani. It was a beautiful day, and there they are in front of part of the pathway, which is quite extensive. Next slide, please. After signing the resolution, we asked, what's next? How can we collaborate with Rotary clubs and other partner organizations in our region? And on August 4th, Dan and I met online with leaders from other national heritage areas and with National Park Service's Chris Stein to consider potential activities. This is a list of some of the groups that we met with. Next slide, please. We agreed to share and continue to develop ideas for activities suggested in an Operation Pollination Pollinator Project Matrix. The matrix evaluates 23 listed project ideas. This is the photo is just part of it, on a scale of 1 to 5, according to effort, the volunteers needed, the cost, the planning time window, and the time involved, as well as the impact of the project. So that's on our agenda to consider for next year with the Rotary. Next slide, please. And the final slide. Rotary International's theme for this year is Imagine, or Imagina in Spanish. One Operation Pollination Rotary leader from Mexico developed is in the process of developing a 3-country partnership with corporate funding from his rail transportation corporation, Kansas City Southern, which was recently acquired by Canadian Pacific. And the project supports monarch butterflies, whose annual migration roughly corresponds with the railroad route. And their major activities will take place this fall. And I hope to be able to report more about this exciting project at our next meeting. And in the meantime, show what can be accomplished with very innovative partnerships across public, private, and nonprofit sectors. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Vivian. Again, exhaustive work that you do, and we're again pleased as a National Heritage Area to have such reach into communities that we serve. So just another example. Again, I invite you to visit housatonicheritage.org to look at all the programs that we spend our energy on. One thing that we do a lot is cultivate partnerships. Through our grant program and through financial support. Steph, thank you so much for joining us today from the Northwest Connecticut Arts Council. We grant money in support of their operation. We grant funds to Connecticut History Day, which is our statewide program of National History Day. We support other programs up and down the Housatonic River Valley, one of which is the Word by Word Festival. It's centered in Pittsfield, but it reaches, young people, adults throughout Berkshire County and beyond. And so I just wanted to show you, this is a clip that aired on WGBY, but it tells you more about Word by Word and may explain why we have such a fondness for the program.
11 years after our nation's independence, the Constitution was created. In it, the very first amendment, freedom of speech. It's a pillar that has defined American values ever since. Based out of Pittsfield, Word by Word is a program that embraces freedom of speech in its series, Poets Creating Conversation, to tackle some of the biggest issues Americans face today. Connecting Point attended their most recent event, where in their own words and voicing their own opinions, people talked about being different in America.
I asked my 2-year-old daughter what different means. She kind of quirked up the side of her face and made a sound like, huh?
Word by Word is, it's a concept more than it is a group of people. It's not one set group of people like a dance troupe or a theater group. It is this idea of bringing people together and creating community through words.
And so tonight, we will celebrate our differences.
Dark clothes, dyed hair, hiding behind a mask, and yet here I stand. Wide open to all of you. Do you see me or do I see you?
Which is why I seem so normal. Just another white kid going to school, as if the world were clean and safe, a snug home with doors wide open to receive the free, the brave, the native born.
No one else shares your holidays or traditions, your peculiar family practices, tolerations of racist uncles, memories of board games on stormy nights, unspoken pacts to let elderly relatives pass into dementia with dignity. These are signposts of your unique, nay, bizarre identity.
What? Different. No one says different. It's different. And he's like, no, it's different. It's different. So we ran to my mom and we're like, listen to this. Different. Different. Which of us is right? And she couldn't tell the difference or hear the difference between the difference.
A man with a smile and kindness about him walks in the door and exchanges one sweater for another. Won't you be his neighbor? Mr. Rogers, who taught us what it's like to be neighbors, who taught us everyone could be a neighbor, that everyone was important. If robots became our new neighbors, what would you do? Would you smoke them out and run them off like we did to the blacks, then the Irish, the Jewish, the blacks again, the Mexican, children at our borders? Or would you do something new? What would Mr. Rogers do? Won't you be their neighbor?
Unless we change our view of the person to the left or to the right of you, who doesn't have your hue, who doesn't speak the English and has the etiquette that you aspire to.
You want something different? I'll give you something different. The federal government claims we need to take care of our own. Evidently, Puerto Ricans are not considered our own. Evidently, people of color are not considered our own. Evidently, the rainbow community is not considered our own. Evidently, women are not considered our own. For some, being yourself has no rewards. Being who you are is punishment. You want something different? So do I.
Anyway, I just wanted to call that to your attention as an example of, the diversity of programming that we support as a national heritage area. It goes, beyond the traditional notion of history, culture, and natural resource conservation issues. And, we embrace the communities that we serve. And that's just one example, the Word by Word Festival. So we're pleased to be able to do what we want. And we are over time. So again, I did want to mention the Housatonic Heritage Walks are coming up in September. The brochures are out in distribution now. Pick one up, go on a heritage walk. They're free, guided, amazing places. So every weekend in September and then the first weekend in October. Again, I want to thank you all for taking the time to join this meeting today. We'll post the recording on our website for future viewing. Thank you again to my amazing board of trustees that supports all of the work that we do here. Couldn't do it without you. Thanks. Will, did you have any parting comments?
Nope, just to echo that thanks. And yeah, do be in touch. Look for the grant programs that come out as well, so that we can continue to catalyze more efforts. It's a lot of fun.
Great. Terrific. Thanks again for joining us. Meeting adjourned. Thanks.